about civil law. It's the product of the codification of private law in the Philippines. It is the general law that governs family and property relations in the Philippines. It is also part of the legal system that deals with people's relationship, property, and business agreements. In short, it talks about the system of principles and government that controls the legal relationship between the two. An example of this relationship from our tourism industry is that a tour guide and tour participation, where for hospitality industry, the hotel management, and the guests. But the question is, what is the relevance of civil law to the tourism industry? Civil law holds a sustainable tourism for the country. Hence, it helps in promoting and providing a safe space for tourists and also some indigenous people residing in the country. So, let's connect civil law to the indigenous people of our country. Did you know that a mountain range covers 1/6 of the land area of Luzon, wherein there are more than 100 indigenous groups distributed in this island? The Philippines is the only country in Asia which uses a third indigenous people. According to Republic Act number 8371, or the Indigenous People Rights Act of 1997, an act to recognize, protect, and promote the rights of indigenous cultural communities or indigenous peoples, creating a National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, establishing implementing mechanism, appropriating funds thereof, and for other purposes. The state shall recognize and promote all the rights of indigenous cultural communities or indigenous people, or what we know as ICC or IP, hereunder enumerated within the framework of the Constitution. The state shall recognize and promote the rights of ICC and IPs within the framework of national unity and development. Moreover, it shall protect the rights of ICC and IPs to their ancestral domains to ensure their economic, social, and cultural well-being, and shall recognize the applicability of customary laws governing property rights or relation in determining the ownership and extent of ancestral domain. Furthermore, the state shall recognize, respect, and protect the rights of ICC and IPs to preserve and develop their cultures, traditions, and institutions. It shall consider these rights in the formulation of national laws and policies. Towards these ends, the state shall institute and establish the necessary mechanism to enforce and guarantee the realization of these rights, taking into consideration their customs, traditions, values, beliefs, interests, and institutions, and to adopt and implement measures to protect their rights to their ancestral domains. Nowadays, this law gives our indigenous people an opportunity to make them feel able to pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. Also, to feel them respected when it comes to their values, practices, and groups. That's why civil law protects the property of an individual, group, and a country. Civil law is focusing on property to ensure safety and security, peace or order, and that's it. Now, let's hear the detailed explanation about the civil law. Take it away!
Article 19 of the Civil Code, or the Golden Rule. This article focuses in the principle of abuse of right, which require that everyone must act with justice, give everyone his due, and observe honesty and good faith.
Now let's tackle another topic, the civil code related to tourism. It is an act that acknowledges, protects, and advocates for indigenous people's rights, communities of culture, and indigenous persons, establishing a national agency for indigenous peoples, setting up and implementing systems, allocating funds, as well as for other reasons. The Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act of 1997, also known as Republic Act number 8371, states that state must uphold all the rights of indigenous and cultural communities and indigenous peoples, or the ICCs and IPs, to basic government services including their healthcare. The state is responsible for preserving, safeguarding, and advancing the past, present, and the future expression of these and their rights to reinstitute for any cultural, intellectual, religious, or spiritual property that has been taken against their will, without their knowledge or consent, or defiance of their laws, traditions, or customs.
Obligation of contracts is the responsibility that parties to contract are required to bear upon entering into legally binding agreements. A contractual obligation can come in different forms, including the completion of certain tasks, avoidance of certain acts, delivery of products or services, and the payment of consideration. Parties that fail to fulfill their obligations may face legal consequences. In certain situations, contractual obligations may be transferred to a third party.
Now let's tackle partnership. According to Article 1767 of the new Civil Code, by entering into a partnership agreement, two or more people obligate themselves to contribute money, assets, or labor to join a fund with the goal of sharing their profits. A partnership is a contract between two or more parties that outlines how they will manage a business operations and divide its assets and liabilities. All partners in a general partnership business split the company's assets and liabilities equally. Limited liability partnerships are frequently formed by experts like doctors and lawyers. A partnership may have tax advantages over a corporation. And the types of partnership. A partnership, broadly speaking, it can be any project that several people undertake together. Governments, charitable organizations, businesses, or private persons may be the parties, and partnership's objective can also differ greatly. Now let's discuss the types. First one is the general partnership. All partners in the general partnerships are equally liable financially and legally. The debt or the partnerships incurs are personally liable to the individuals. Equal shares are also given to profits. In the partnership agreement, the mechanics of profit sharing will almost definitely be spelled out in writing. Liability, limited liability partnership professionals, including their accountants, attorneys, and architects, frequently choose limited liability partnerships and their business structure. Through this agreement, partners' personal liability is restricted. As a result, other partners' assets are put at risk. For instance, if one partner is sued for malpractice, the hybrid of general partnership and limited liability partnership is limited partnership. A general partner is required who bears full personal responsibility for the personship's obligations. The responsibility of at least one silent partner is constrained to the amount of invested. Now let's discuss the pros and cons of engaging partnership. Number one of pros is partners can combine their resources, knowledge, and effort. Task sharing between partners promote better work-life balance, and the firm can benefit from the experience and fresh viewpoints on additional partners. The disadvantages or the cons are partners may have additional responsibility or debts. There is a higher possibility of dissension or poor management. Selling the company can get more challenging. Now let's tackle partnership with the private sector. Along with the RA, the Tourism Congress of the Philippines, or the TCP, was founded in accordance with Republic Act 9593, sometimes referred to as Tourism Act of 2009, to involve the private sector in the development of tourism policy alongside DOT, its affiliated organizations. A firm establishment through a deed of partnership is a partnership with the private sector. The partnership's rules are outlined in the deed of partnership document. For instance, it details the financial contribution made by each partner to partnership as well as their respective responsibilities. And that will be all. Now let's proceed to the next reporter.
General property is the absolute ownership usually of personal property with the right of complete dominion over it, including the incidental rights of possession, of use and enjoyment, and of disposition or alienation distinguished from special property. There are two kinds of property, movable and immovable property. Movable property refers to personal property which is either consumable or non-consumable. On the other hand, immovable property refers to roads, constructions, and buildings. They are referred to as immovable because they adhere to the soil. The Civil Code of the Philippines gives detailed information about the difference between these classifications. The following are immovable property: land, buildings, roads, and constructions of all kinds adhere to the soil, trees, plants, and growing fruits while they are attached to the land or form an integral part of an immovable. Everything attached to an immovable in a fixed manner in such a way that it cannot be separated, therefore, without breaking the material or deterioration of the object. The following things are deemed to be the personal property or movable. First, those movable susceptible or of appropriation which are not included in the preceding article. Second, real property which by any special provisions of law is considered as personal property. And lastly, forces of nature which are brought under control by science, and in general, all things which can be transported from place to place without impairment of the real property to which they are fixed.
Moving on to the law of sales. Law of sales aims to understand various rights, obligations, as well as consequences in entering contract of sales. According to Article 1458, by the contract of sales, one of the contracting parties obligate themselves to transfer ownership and to deliver indeterminate things in order to pay price, certain money, or its equivalent. In the tourism and hospitality industry, agreements and contracts have to be made, and potential breach from these agreements. A contract of sale is one of the usual contract being encountered by the industry concerned. This will be giving you an overview of the different sales transactions which may encounter, including remedies of the parties concerned.
Common or public courier. It is in the Article 1732 of the Civil Code of the Philippines, and it means that it is either be a person, corporation, firms, or associations, and must be in the business of carrying or transporting both goods or passengers from one place to another, and offer their services to the public either by land, water, or air for compensation, offering their services to the public. Typical examples of common carriers include a ship owner, railroad, airline, taxi service, a bus, taxi cab, and etc.
Now, let's talk about taxation law in relation to the tourism industry. Tax law in the Philippines covers national and local taxes. National taxes refers to the national internal revenue taxes imposed and collected by the national government through the Bureau of Internal Revenue or BIR, while local taxes refers to those imposed and collected by the local government. The Tax Code of 1997, the basic source of Philippine tax law, is the National Internal Revenue Law, which codifies all tax provision, the latest of which is embodied in Republic Act 8424, or also known as the Tax Reform Act of 1997. In relation to the tourism industry is the Republic Act number 9593, or the Tourism Act of 2009. It is an act declaring a national policy for tourism as an engine of investment, employment, growth, and national development, with strengthening the Department of Tourism and its attached agency to effectively and efficiently implement that policy and appropriating funds thereof. The state shall declare tourism as an indispensable element of the national economy and an industry of national interest and importance, which must be harnessed as an engine of socio-economic growth, cultural affirmation to generate investment, foreign exchange, and employment, and to continue to mold an enhanced sense of national pride for all Filipinos. Also, in ensuring the development of Philippine tourism that is for and by the Filipino, to conserve and promote their heritage, national identity, and sense of unity. Moreover, recognize sustainable tourism development as integral to the national socio-economic development efforts to improve the quality of life of the Filipino people. Also, providing the appropriate attention and support for the growth of this industry. Promoting a tourism industry that is ecologically sustainable, responsible, participative, culturally sensitive, economically viable, and ethically and socially equitable for local communities, and creates a favorable image of the Philippines within the international community. Now, let's hear the detailed explanation about taxation law. Take it away!
Now moving on to the purpose and importance of taxation. Well, tax is a mandatory fee or financial charge imposed by the government on individuals or to an organization. Taxes are an important source of revenue of the government because it can provide public goods and services. Some examples of public goods and services that are financed by taxes are such as national defense, healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Why taxes are important? While government collect taxes from the income of citizens in order to sustain and fund healthcare, education, infrastructure, and other services of the economy and the country to be functional. Taxes is not about paying money, but this builds the relationship between citizens and economy.
On the other hand, the lifeblood theory constitutes the theory of taxation, which provides the existence of government is a necessity, that government cannot continue without means to pay its expenses, and that for this means it has right to compel its citizens and property within its limits to contribute. Taxation is considered as the lifeblood of the government. It has a reciprocal obligation between the state and its people, wherein people pay taxes in exchange for protection and their welfare. Without the citizens' contribution, the government cannot serve its function. The necessity theory and benefits received are topic that the next reporter will cover. Thank you.
What is income tax? An income tax is a government tax on the taxable profit earned by an individual or corporation. The resulting revenue is usually one of the chief sources of cash for a government entity, and also it is considered one of the more fair forms of taxation since it is only imposed if a person or business has been successful enough to generate taxable income. Thus, its impact on the poor or unprofitable is minor to non-existent. The best example of this is when you earn $1,000 in a state with a flat income tax rate of 10%. $100 in income taxes shall be withheld from your paycheck when you earn that income.
Corporate tax is a country's primary source of income that helps our country to develop. The tourism is the one of the biggest tax collecting sector in our country. The amount of tourists visiting the country has a big impact to our economy so that the government can have enough income from the tax on the business owner, which is turned to be used to improve, for example, in the infrastructure, natural attraction, accommodation, and other services related in tourism.
Travel tax. The travel tax is a levy imposed by the Philippine government on individuals who are leaving the country irrespective of the place where the air ticket is issued to the form of place of payment as provided for by Presidential Decree 1183 as amended. Pursuant to Section 73 of Republic Act Number 9593, 50% of the proceeds from travel tax collections shall accrue to TIEZA, 40% shall accrue to the Commission of Higher Education or CHED for tourism-related educational programs and courses, and 10% shall accrue to the National Commission for Culture and Arts or NCCA. Who is exempted from paying the travel tax? First, Filipino citizens who are permanent residents abroad, balikbayan visitors who have stayed in the Philippines for less than a year, and overseas Filipino contract workers. Examples of travel tax. Taxable individuals may be charged the full travel tax amounting to 2,700 pesos for first class passage, and for economy class passage is only for 1,620 pesos. The standard reduced travel tax amounting to 1,350 pesos for first class passage, and for economy class passage is only for 810 pesos. And lastly is the privilege reduced travel tax amounting to 400 pesos for first class passage, and for economy class passage is only for 300 pesos.
What is VAT and how is it applicable in tourism? The VAT, or the value-added tax, is a form of sales tax that strongly affects the tourist competitiveness of the country, in which a tax on consumption levied on the sale, barter, exchange, or lease of goods or properties that services in the Philippines and on importation of goods in our country. The question is, will VAT be applicable for tourists? The short answer is yes. The travel and tourism industry is an important part of the national economy. However, there is a news that the current president allowed foreigners to get a VAT refund on items they are taking out of the Philippines, similar to what many other countries offer.
To conclude the taxation in the Philippines, the importance of taxes in the Philippines is that the operations and development projects of the Philippine government are funded by the tax revenue. Tax revenue plays a crucial role in the economic and fiscal policy of the nation because it is the government's lifeblood. Taxes not only bring in money, but they also contribute to economic growth and stability. By forcing charges on labor and products, the public authority can deter superfluous utilization and creation and guarantee that assets are utilized more effectively. The Philippines utilizes duties to reallocate pay and abundance in the general public. To reduce inequality, progressive taxation systems, for instance, tax higher incomes at higher rates. Additionally, the tourism sector has big roles in terms of two laws, which are civil and taxation. In terms of civil law, tourism might know about our culture and traditions and also include the practices and how to protect, implement, and respect all indigenous people that are included in the civil code. Also in taxation, tourism has a big impact on our economy because our government earns more profit from the business owner that might be used to improve and develop our infrastructures and all tourism-related activities, such as the rehabilitation of old tourist spots. That's all for our presentation. Thank you for watching.